Let's welcome on the show then Mohit Gang. He's the founder and CEO of Moneyfront to talk about our first topic at hand, financial planning and investments for all the moms out there. Why is it important, particularly if you are a single mom and a working mom, for you to ensure that you are investing your money properly, wisely, and if you are not, where should you start off from? If you're a mom watching the show, or if you want to do this for your mother, then tune in and, like I said, send us your queries. So Mohit, first up, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Hope you are doing well and keeping safe amidst these turbulent times. To start with, Mohit, why is it important that all moms out there, whether they are working or even if they're not working, they are housewives, why is it important that they invest their money in any asset class, be it investment, be it equities, or fixed deposits?
Hi, Mubina. Good evening to all your viewers, and my salute to all the mothers out there who pour their heart and souls to raise their family. So very valid question as to why is it important. Look, as much as it is important to take care of social, psychological, nourishment needs of a family, if you are a single mother, you also need to take care of the financial needs of your family, right? You have to raise a family, you have certain liabilities, you have certain dependence in your family, and you have to, as a single bread earner, you have to take care of all those things, right? And then therein comes the importance of investing your corpus or investing your monthly income in safe instruments, in instruments which can grow your wealth, which can fulfill your financial goals. So those could range from a variety of products. It could range from government products like PPF and Sukanya Samriddhi, or it could go to corporate deposits, as you rightly said, fixed deposits. It can also go into the realm of mutual funds, equity funds, debt funds, so on and so forth. But it is very critical that you plan for contingencies, you plan for your family, and you provide for your goals, because you're the sole bread earner.
And a contingency like the one that we are seeing right now, right? I mean, this pandemic is something that has disrupted a lot of household incomes as well. So it's all the more important that you save up for times like these. Mohit, let's understand what is unique about a single parent household in terms of the amount of risk as well that she can take.
Absolutely. Times are quite distressful across, and a single mother's risk profile is very different from anyone else's on the street, right? Because she's the sole bread earner, she has dependents. It will also depend on her age and whether the child is a minor or the children are major, they are themselves earning or not. But typically, if the case is that a single mother has a minor child, then the risk profile is fairly conservative, and you have to plan for many contingencies which can occur, right? She has to provide for emergency corpuses. She also has to have adequate insurance at all times, both life and health insurance, to provide for any critical illnesses, any serious disabilities. Everything has to be well provisioned and well planned, because she's the only pillar of the family.
So in such a scenario, given the fact that that her risk profile will be a little more conservative, maybe she can't get too adventurous, what are the asset classes, investments that she should stay away from?
Okay, so clearly there are some no-go zones out there. Typically, if you're a single mother, you have to avoid all closed-ended and lock-in products. Basically, you have to avoid any kind of high-risk equity products, derivatives, futures, or exotic alternate products. You have to keep away from high-cost debt, especially personal loans and credit card loans of those kinds. So you have to be totally away from these zones. As I told you, government schemes, safer debt options, and mutual funds are the go-to zones.
Okay. So if someone, let's say, has to start off investing now, not just for their own future, but maybe for their kids as well. And let's assume minor kids. So, the kid has a while to go before they attain the age of 18, and, education expenses, other expenses kick in. What is the correct asset allocation plan you'd recommend for the mother's future and, for the kid's future as well?
Okay, so look out before we go to the asset allocation. The plan for this entire thing is very important. First of all, you have to compulsorily keep aside at least 20% of your monthly income and provision that for your investments and savings. You have to list out all your future goals like your children's education, their marriages, your retirement plans. You have to plan for any big liabilities and contingencies, any other EMIs which are going on. And the most important part, which often gets ignored, is that you have to get all your nominations in place. You have to get your will in place. You have to make sure that if the children is minor, which you said, right, your guardians are in place and the guardians are trustworthy, right? They are some family members or good friends. After you have done all this, then comes the asset allocation part. So under the asset allocation pattern, again, it will depend on your age and income. But typically, I would assume that it has to be more like a moderate or a conservative kind of an asset allocation. Under the debt options, you could first select the PPF, which is like 7.1% currently, a Sukanya Samriddhi, which is 7.6% currently. These are great instruments, tax-free instruments, will give you ATC benefits as well. You can go for very good corporate deposits of good credit rating companies. You can also go into shorter tenor debt funds, which are safer options for your regular investments, right? On the equity side, I would personally recommend that the portfolio is more tilted towards large caps and blue chips. You could have a large cap fund or you could have an index fund. It will be even more better. You could have an hybrid fund in your portfolio, and you can also go for a flexi cap fund. I think the avoidable zones could be mid cap and small cap, unless you have the real risk appetite to go for those kind of products. But that will be a typical asset allocation for this kind of a profile.
Okay, understood. Let's talk about and I think you raised a very valid point out there, and many a times we as well forget about this, but I think it assumes even more importance if you are a single parent, to ensure that your nominations are in place. There is a trustworthy guardian as well to take care of the child, to put the child in the right path in terms of the finances, because you're any which ways the only parent. Unfortunately, another woeful and a sad headline that we've been reading in times of COVID-19 is how both parents have passed away and the child is left fending for himself or herself. We don't want something like that to happen, and of course the one way that you can at least try to ensure your child is taken care of is by properly putting in place documentation, making a will, putting your child's name as a nominee in all your assets and all your savings. That's extremely important. I'm glad you raised that point, Mohit. Okay.
I was just saying.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, one important part which we kind of missed out, Mubina, was the importance of keeping an emergency corpus. Typically, in these cases or in times like these, it is advisable that you have at least 6 to 12 months of emergency corpus, which is always out there to take care of any unforeseen situations. And the most important part, your insurances are in place, which is a plain vanilla life cover and an health insurance policy to cover any contingencies, which will have your critical illness riders, your permanent disability riders, and more importantly, a waiver of premium clause to take care of any eventuality. So these are few basics or foundations of a plan for a single mom.
All right. So yes, insurance is extremely critical. Ensure that you have it in place for yourself and in a way for your child as well. And I'm glad, you said, you spoke about the emergency fund as well. A certain amount of your income should be set aside for times like these. Now, for the mom's benefit, for the women's benefit, the government offers many schemes, many financial institutions as well, like banks, etc., offer many schemes that do have better terms and conditions, better interest rates for women. If you could explain all of those schemes and which ones, I know you mentioned a few of them earlier, but if you could sort of elaborate what the benefits available to such women are.
I think from time to time, Government of India will announce certain benefits for women folk, and it could range from maternity benefits to work benefits, work-related benefits, or leave-related benefits, or some medical assistance-related benefits. For that, I think a proper reading of government schemes is required. But to my mind, the best scheme which women could take care, should go in for is Sukanya Samriddhi. If you have a girl child below 10 years years of age. That's a fantastic instrument to plan for and provide for your girl child. One should go for that. And obviously the government schemes like PPF and all, those are tax-free instruments and are fantastic things to plan for your long-term retirement objective.
Okay. All right. Well, Sukanya Samriddhi, yes, all of these, schemes, firstly, of course, government backed, so you are assured of your capital. And secondly, Sukanya Samriddhi offers a better interest rate, quite a high interest rate as well. So if you have a girl child who is under 10 years of age, this is another great instrument. All right, well, let's take on board some questions and queries. We've received quite a few of them, so we'll try and answer them. You can connect with us on the Money Show at etnow.tv. Our first question is from Parija Dalamal. It says, I have the following mutual funds in my portfolio, which I am investing in for long-term wealth creation. Kindly let me know if they are good enough. There's the Franklin India Focused Equity Fund, the HDFC Small Cap Fund, L&T Mid Cap Fund, and the Murray Asset Emerging Blue Chip Growth Fund. Now, Parijat has not mentioned the age, but of course it's long term, so we presume 8 to 10 years. And the SIP figure is 10,500, which again we'll assume roughly evenly spread across between these 4 funds. What would you recommend? Any chops and changes? And again, since it's a long term, plan in mind, I doubt Parijat will be looking at this portfolio very frequently. I'm glad Parijat has sent across the portfolio though to the Money Show, because a revision is always a good idea. So what would you recommend?
Absolutely, Mubina. I think it's a good long-term portfolio which Parijat has created for himself. Look, all the 4 schemes which you mentioned are great schemes, good performance, good track record, rock solid schemes, right? And different fund houses, different stables, different fund managers, different minds behind it. So overall, I think the portfolio has been built and provisioned for very neatly. The only space where I see a gap is that you don't have a large cap scheme in the portfolio. You have a large plus mid, you have a mid and you have a small cap fund in the portfolio. The tilt towards the mid cap and the small cap is a little high for my comfort. Honestly, I would have preferred a slightly higher tilt towards large cap. So if you could reorient your portfolio more towards large cap, or maybe the additional funds which you deploy could go into a large cap scheme, and out there you could choose a Mirai large cap, or you could choose an index fund, Pru ICS Nifty index plan for that matter. That would be better. And gradually maybe perhaps a flexi cap scheme is also warranted in the portfolio. But otherwise, the existing schemes are all quite good, great track record, and one should continue with those.
All right, maybe few too many small and mid cap funds, but otherwise largely it looks okay. I hope this would help Parijat as well in the wealth creation journey. Okay, here's a very interesting one. During a Q&A, you spoke about insurance, and Divya has a follow-up question on that. She says, I'm 34 years old. My daughter is 6 years old. What's the best health insurance to buy, and what kind? Kindly advise. Okay, there are so many insurance policies out there, right? Your family floaters, plus your employer as well covers you in their group insurance scheme. If Divya is employed, I'm sure she has that benefit. And when you have a child attached, you want an insurance policy that helps pay for the child's expense as well. God forbid if he or she, does fall ill. Plus, then you have critical care cover. Now you even have individual illnesses cover, like the COVID health insurance cover. So, what kind would you recommend for Divya, given her profile?
Look, Mubina, I think the first thing is that one should not solely rely on the employer's health cover which is provided. Like, because you will change jobs, and perhaps at the time of retirement, which is when the requirement for a health cover is the highest, at that point in time, you will be left high and dry. You won't have a cover. So it's always advisable to buy one health floater policy on your own name. Looks the conditions to be checked before you go into a health cover are, you have to check whether there are any pre-existing diseases which are covered, what is the waiting period like, what are the specific exclusions in the policy, what is the pro rata clause, what is the OPD coverage which has been provided, right? And smaller families, smaller units, I would always advise to go in for a floater plan. It's cheaper, it's more economical, you always can't fall ill together in the family. So that's a great thing to go for. With the given conditions which Divya has mentioned to us, I would suggest that you could look for a complete health plan from Pru ICICI Lombard. Why I would recommend this is solely because it's a good brand name. It's a good provider of insurance. There is a high sum insured to low premium ratio available in the policy, and the ease of policy issuance is fantastic out there. It actually involves some 7 different types of covers. It also has the COVID cover, which obviously is much coveted in these times, basically, and the premium is quite economical. Look, and the other part is, if you are coming from a metro town or a city, perhaps a 10 lakh kind of a cover is a good cover to start with. And if you're coming from a non-metro kind of a city, maybe you can look at around a 5 lakh kind of a cover. For a 5 lakh kind of a cover in this complete health plan from Pru Lombard, the typical cost will be around 9,500 odd approximately. And for a 10 lakh kind of a cover, it will be around 11,300 something, right? So that's a good plan to go for. Otherwise, also there are many online health insurance plans which are available. Look for those specific clauses, go into the fine print, which is extremely critical, and then go in for a floater plan. That should suffice.
Okay, so that's quite a comprehensive look, and I'm sure this is something that will benefit all our viewers out there, who fit Divya's profile, young, with a young kid as well. I think there's a good guidance on how to start off with an insurance policy. A floater cover would be best if you have children, like in Divya's case. Okay, a slightly different kind of question from Geeta Kumari. She says, my name is, I'm 26 years old and I'm married to a government employee. Now she's saying, last year my father passed away without any will. I have a brother too. I want to know, what are my rights to my father's house, which is in his name, the father's name. This is an interesting one. We had the whole HUF related law as well that was passed by the Supreme Court last year with respect to the daughter's rights to ancestral property. But of course, here it's not the case of an HUF. However, what happens when the individual passes away without a loan? What happens to the property? How is it split then?
First of all, Geeta ji, extremely sorry to hear about the loss. Out here, the Hindu Succession Act 1956 will be applicable, Mubina. It was amended recently in 2005. And if you recall well, there was a Supreme Court ruling around it, basically, which said that if your father dies intestate, which means that if your father expires without a will in place, the daughter will have equal rights to the father's property. So if you are a legal heir, and you have all the rights to have a proportionate claim on your property along with your brothers and other sisters, even though your name is not mentioned in the will. So go ahead, make your claim. Supreme Court allows you to do that.
All right, equal rights then for all the women out there if, of course, the father has passed on without leaving a will behind. This the Supreme Court, the highest court in India, has in itself ruled, so there's no ambiguity on that front. But I think with that, we're out of time. So Mohit, we'll let you go on that note. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show. And I'm sure, this entire conversation was very useful for all the young working moms out there. Thanks so much once again.
Thank you, Mubina. Thanks.